Hi, David Taylor on Mr Pelargonium, back with another video for the Pelargonium and Geranium Society. Today it's time to start thinking about stopping my zonals for the show season. It's the end of January and it's something we need to think about now. So let's get going. Hello there, well it's good to see you again. Time is moving through, it's the end of January, filming this on the 27th, Friday the 27th of January. And tomorrow, Saturday the 28th, is exactly 20 weeks until the show. So realistically, over the next 2 to 4 weeks, really all of February, realistically, it's time to think about giving your zonals a trim, and indeed regals. I mean, I did mine a month ago, but I've explained I have to do mine early. But February is the time when we have to give our zonals a bit of a trim for the show season, or realistically, even if you want to give them a bit of a cutback, if you manage to get them through the winter. Not the easiest thing to do this year. We're just coming out of January now. Really, the last 2 weeks have been very cold. We've had a lot of severe frosts once again, just like we did in December, although it's not quite as cold as then. But you know, it's been a bit of an effort getting things through the winter this year. What with the damp and the cold, the two together, it's not been the easiest of winters to get the plants through. So today I'm going to be looking. I always do mine a little bit earlier. Everybody knows my glass house is relatively sheltered. So I've got two big buildings or garages either side, and the sun doesn't really start to get going on the glass house until well into February. So I get mine stopped a bit earlier than you probably would do normally. Now, I will put up a little bit of a chart there to give you a bit of guidance into the time for stopping for June shows. Now, I realise, as I've said before, that the number of people that exhibit these days in shows is very small and very limited. You may, though, be able to think about doing one for your local gardening society, putting in some plants for your local gardening society. So if you're thinking about a show you may have, for instance, in August, you can cut back. You can probably shave at least 2 weeks off of those stopping times. Now, we've got a nice dry day today, thankfully. It's relatively airy. The weather has started to get a bit milder as well as I film this. So I'll be able to, once I've done this, I'll be able to throw the greenhouse open, get lots of air to heal up the wounds. The plant is quite dry, as is always the case that I always profess to do before we give a plant a little bit of a trim back. Now, the one thing I will say actually before I start, if you've got tall leggy plants, don't be frightened to give them a real hard crop back. It really won't harm them at all. I'm just trying to give you an example. I mean, these are standards here. Well, let's have a look at this one. This is the plant I'm training as a standard. But you can see it's got we've got stipules on it, which is always the problem. But realistically, I mean, you can see side shoots coming up here. And if you've got a really leggy plant like this, you've had indoors, don't be frightened to crop it right back to, say, a side shoot coming out. And that will encourage side shoots to come out further down as well. So don't be frightened. As long as the plant is on the dry side, you won't have any problems at all with the plant rotting back. But the key thing is just make sure the plant is very dry. And after you give it a clip or a cut back, just ensure that you give it, a nice bit of air, or make sure it's in a dry environment. If it's indoors, for instance, it should be fine. But in the case of this zonal, it is just more or less cropping back a little bit to shape the plant up for shows, which I'm hopeful that this one will make. So I'll close in on this and we'll see how to do it. Right, now you want a good clean knife, as I've always said. I use Jay's fluid. Somebody asked me in the comments what I use. This is just Jay's fluid dabbed on a sheet of kitchen roll. and I just wipe the knife through on that just to get it nice and clean. Now, we did regals about a month ago, and the good thing about zonals is that we don't usually have as many branches. Right, now we've got a nice stem break at the top here on this particular stem. You may just about be able to see it poking out there. And that's what we want. We want to go, we want to cut just above that inner break. That's facing inwards. And the next one after that should be facing outwards, but it's lower. And this is how we cut them back to try and achieve the nice ball, the ball effect. Just slice that, slice, slice. There we are. So we've got a nice inner break there, which is growing inwards. The next one down will be coming further down on the outside, and you can just about see it there. It's just breaking through, and that's the way we do it to encourage the sort of nice ball-shaped growth that we get. Now then, this one is sticking out marginally. Now this one here I'll do next. This has got a little bit of rot back on here, so I'm just looking down. We've got a little break coming there. I'm hoping you can see this because I'm getting really detailed. There we are. Take that down. Just get rid of the stipules. The stipules are what are causing the problem here. I'm just looking down this stem. It's quite a long stem, this one. Certainly needs to go down to here. I have got, unfortunately, a lower stem break there just below where I've taken off, and I've also got a little bit of botrytis on that leaf, so I'm going to remove that. I mean, the plant is dryish, so again I'm not going to worry too much about the fact that I'm cutting back quite hard because it's not going to be watered. I think I will leave that like that for the time being. It's fairly well balanced in relation to that stem. I mean, this is quite an old plant. I've got a little bit of a dead stem there. Now that's actually quite nasty. There is a bit of rot back there and you can see that. Now what I do there, I need to take that deeper. There we are, that's clean now. Now the one thing that you do want to do, whenever you've cut through a little bit of dead or dying matter on the stems there, clean your knife because you do not want to be cutting that through with mucky stem growth on there. Now this is a Gosbrook Susanna and it does grow quite quick once the light sort of starts to improve. This one again needs a little bit of cutting back relatively hard. This is why I'm doing this at 20 weeks. Because I am cutting back quite hard. We'll do a little bit of a balance up at the end. That's got an inner break there. That's that one. Take that leaf off. Now this one here, we're coming around to another one that's rotted back. You can see that's got botrytis and stem rot on it. So we need to go just below that. I'm going to go just below that in this case. It is clean outside of that break, so I've gone down and that's fine. I will give my knife another wipe. Now here's an example of a lower stem break coming out. If I was to stop that above there, you would get a great big branch breaking out down below. And I really don't want that, so I'm going to take that one out and stop it above the next node. And you will see just tucked in there, maybe, hopefully, you've got a little stem break just coming. It's exactly where you want that to be. I'll get rid of that one there. What I will probably do with this is give it a dust of sulphur afterwards. I will Take that off there. Another bit of rot on that one. Thankfully it's not penetrated too far. I'll do this one while I'm at it. That's got a nice inner break. Do that one. There is another one that's sticking right out. That should be okay. Right, we begin to see now just how the plant is balancing off. Just nip that leaf out there. I will give the knife another clean. I mean, the other thing as well, of course, this sort of leaf stripping is going to let more light down into the body of the plant, which is ultimately what we want to achieve. Got a little side shoot that's growing quite strongly, so I'm just going to tip stop that one. Nothing more required on that. Right, there's a nice inner break there. Again, dead stipules. Right, so we've got the last few. You can see these are far too high over this side. Get rid of these stipules. Get them out. These two need stopping down, so we'll do those. That's that one. And this one, I think that needs to be taken down even further. Because if I just stop that in there, that would be too tall. So I'm going to go right down on this one to that break there. Just to balance it off. Hopefully you can more or less see what I'm doing. And there we are. I think we're virtually there on that one. It's part and parcel of the problems we've had with zonals. I mean, I am revealing here quite a bit of mess, to be honest. A little bit of rot on there. It's quite dry. I don't think that's too bad. Dead leaf there. But there we are. I think that's about as good. I mean, this is quite an old plant. It does have to be said. This is a 19, so this will be 4 years old this year. I think it's some of the older ones have suffered a bit this winter. I'm going to take that one down a bit further because it's sticking out like a sore thumb. There we are. Taking that down a bit further. I've got a nice little side shoot breaking out there. And that's it. That's what I'm doing. I mean, that's a relatively sort of hard stop, really. It's not too bad, though. When I think of the mess of some of my zonals from this winter, it's not been that good at all. So there we are. I will be doing that to all of my zonals. Doubles first, 20 weeks. I mean, if I want to do a hardish stop, it will be 20 weeks. A sort of just a tip stop, 18 weeks. Same as for regals, really. If you've got regals and you want to do a June show, generally 18 weeks. I do mine much earlier, primarily because, as I've said, I've got a relatively dark greenhouse. So that's more or less it. I've got to take a few of these stipules out. And I've actually already put some sulphur down there, by the looks of it, I can see it. So there we are. That's more or less that one done. Given a stop, relatively hard stop for this time of year. But at 20 weeks, that should grow through. I usually have pretty decent success with Gosbrook Susanna. And that's quite nicely balanced. I will remove a few of these stipules a bit later. Okay, so there we are. That's a little look at stopping zonals, which you will be doing throughout February if you're looking at either getting your plants for shows in June, or indeed sort of looking at sort of getting your plants to come in that sort of early to midsummer period, looking at their best, maybe for your garden and that sort of things. Now the thing is that the slight change in daylight, I mean we've probably overall both morning and evening, not so much in the morning but certainly in the evening, gained about an hour's daylight since the shortest day, which was over a month ago now. But there's no doubt things have just begun to turn. I mean, I can show you some plants here. There's Phyllis, which is one that's just begun to break. All the little stops that I've done sort of I did a lot of these actually over the autumn and even into the early winter, and these have begun to break through now. We've got my Sophie Dumaresque here, which has grown really. I've not done hardly anything to that. I think I've only watered that once over the winter period. And Deanna Westwood here, they've just started to turn a little bit with their colour, which is really good to see. So there's absolutely no doubt that things are just beginning to move. So hopefully, you know, over the next month, we'll really begin to see things just begin to turn colour. Okay, so that's just about it from me today. I'll be stopping most of my plants over the next 2 to 3 weeks. I don't think I've got many singles at all, so there won't be many to do at the 16-week period anyway. But we'll have a look. Hopefully things will begin to move. Once we get into February, the leaves begin to turn, the vibrancy of the colour of those leaves really gets going. And we'll hopefully be able to start doing a little bit of work to get the plants moving as we get to the end of the winter and look forward to the spring. So that's it from me for now, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.